Now we've got, okay, you duty, the breach. Then we need to establish yes or not. Okay, you broke the law, you broke your duty, you didn't do your duty, but how do you really establish negligence? Now, this is another area that we need to consider as well. So the magnitude of the risk, meaning that you can foresee some risk, okay? And you also need to foresee the extent of the risk, okay? So extent of the damage. So, and that is something to be taken into consideration. The court don't only look at, okay, this is a damage done, so I will, this is extreme damage, but sometimes this damage, if it's already considered that you know this kind of damage will happen, okay, but then what if is going beyond that kind of damage? See, so that also will be taken into account whether you actually take your duty more seriously to actually go beyond, that you take care of things beyond that standard. You see, so the example that we have here is about this guy. He is already one eye blind, so he's actually doing a job of a welder. And with his one eye blind, and he's not even the people are not even providing him with a goggle. So then something flew into his eye, the other eye, and he got completely blind. See, so the defendants are liable. It's not saying that he's liable for the blindness. It's not saying, oh, you already got one eye blind already, and then the other eyes cannot see already. So I'm only liable for one eye. See, so that is something that or like he's saying, oh, you don't need to wear goggles because your eyes is only one eye already, so it's okay, kind of thing. No such thing. You see, so we need to look at how the defendant actually look after the extent of risk, not only just simple, like your logic of never mind, that kind of thing. So it has to be very careful. When you do have that duty, you need to provide enough of it's just like in construction. I said, oh yeah, my workers never weigh, so I don't provide. Is that correct? That's not correct. You still are preaching. You see, they don't weigh, it's their business. You don't provide, it's your problem. See, so when something happened to them, or when they fall, or when they got knocked down by the car because they're not wearing the blinking jackets and all that, then you have the duty as a contractor. See, so you need to uh, mark into the magnitude of the risk as well. You should think about what can happen. Not to say that, oh, I don't give because they will not do it. Is this so? That is wrong already. And then we also need to say that we need to establish also that the skills of the defendant, okay, that that the defendant profess. If I say that I'm an engineer, I have certain standards here. You see, PE, I have certain standards here. I should do certain things. You see, so if my particular skills, I declare I profess my skills, I declare I profess I can make some judgment, or the lawyers says that I can do I can do this. I'm a solicitor, so I do this. I'm a barrister, I do this. So when you profess something, you're civil engineers, you're mechanical engineers, you're chemical engineers, you are professing something. So your task must be equivalent to the task that you do must be equivalent to the skills that you profess. If you're saying that you are civil engineers, and then suddenly you go and sign some mechanical valves and all that, then that is wrong. You're chemical engineers, then you have a job, then you go and sign something on civil. It's ridiculous, isn't it? There's supposed to be some limitation here. The skills that you profess, okay, will actually affect the conduct as well. Okay, this direct relations one, and then also you need to look into the probability of the damage that will be done. So care must be taken in respect to a risk that is reasonable foreseeable, but nearly all human action will involve some risk. So we do not want to overdo this thing, you see. So not every risky action will result in a liability. So we don't want to, like a case here, the plaintiff's husband riding a motorcycle along the road besides a piece of open land occupied by the defendants. Children permitted to play football on the field. A ball was kicked into the road, and then fatal accidents happened. As there was a strong possibility of injury to the road, the defendants were negligent as they had taken no precautions to ensure the safety of the road users. So in this case, you see, again, it tests the reasonableness, the reasonable foreseeability, and the chances of it happening. But of course, if his chances are so small, I mean, like this guy playing in a field, of course, every day, you probably kick the ball out to the road like 3 times a day, so it's really a good chance that this will happen. But obviously, if it's a very, very small possibility of this thing happen, it may not be reasonable enough to actually constitute a negligence. See, so we need to establish whether we have that negligence from this few perspective. Number one, whether you are doing the work that you are professing to do. Number two, you have bought that, you've covered most of the risk that can be created from your action. Like the magnitude, have you actually think about the magnitude of the risk of your actions or inactions? And have you actually looked at the chances of it happening as well? Okay, so these are a few things. And then the utility of object to be achieved. The court may call to assess social utilities of the defendant's conduct in determining whether he is negligent. Okay. I think this one here is talking about, so talking about, well, the standard. Okay, there is a standard, but the problem is, if I am a specific, if I follow the standard, then something will, other things will be harmed, correct? Let's say, for example, like I said, everybody says drive along the road at 60 km, this road, okay? Everybody must follow. That is the objective, of every road user to follow this rule here. But if you're an ambulance driver, you come along and then you have got a patient, like I said, inside of your ambulance who is actually dying. So you are driving like 100 km per hour, 120 km, double, the speed. Then there's accidents here. So, well, you need to know the objective of that actions. It's not just I simply drive along the road. I simply pump and go up 120 for no reason. So to establish that whether he is negligent or not, also look at the objective of the actions in that sense. Also the other part is the fifth thing is whether you have that or not, is have that you have actually committed negligence or not. Is once the court has identified a risk as reasonably foreseen, the question is whether defendants have taken precaution. Have you done all you can? Let's say you've already put up a fence along the road, and just so happens, like every time the ball will only maybe just hit the fence, but just one day, just one fine day, and then that ball just went out through the field, I mean, like, yes, preventive action has been taken, but this happened again. So the court needs to establish that as well. So from the duty to the standard, and then even you have all this duty and breaching or not breaching, yes, you breach, we also need to look at when you're breaching the duties or not, we need to see these 5 elements here. How much consideration have you put into your standard? As a standard reasonable man, have you done this? Have you done precaution? Have you looked at all that is going to happen? Have you looked at all the possibility reasons? Do you know the objective of the actions? And then, what you profess, are you doing what you profess? Is it a degree of probability of the damage? So these 5 areas you need to remember very carefully. When we're establishing whether, yes, at the end of the day, you breach. Breach means you have done negligence. So these 5 areas is something that needs to be completely established before you say yes. Duty of care, we established 4 things, policy, proximity, possibility, and fair and just imposition. 4 things. And then with this breaching, like I said, we will see standard of the reasonable man, which is covering all this standard of reasonable man, and the test of reasonableness is all here in these 5 areas that you need to understand. That whether this standard has been breached or just not met the standard or not. If not met the standard, then it's negligence. Then the rest of the lecture will be covering on claiming for the damage.